In recent years, North Korea has demonstrated its advanced technological capabilities by developing nuclear weapons. While its missile technology hasn't reached the level of sophistication needed to target the American West Coast, it poses a considerable threat to its regional neighbors, Japan and South Korea, as it can unleash nuclear fire upon them. There have been hopeful signs in the past year that a military conflict between the U.S. and North Korea might be avoidable. However, despite two summits between President Trump and Kim Jong-un, we're no closer to resolving the nuclear crisis on the peninsula. North Korea's pledges to reduce or cease its nuclear program after the first face-to-face meeting with President Trump were quickly proven to be empty promises, as the American intelligence community confirmed that significant activity was still ongoing in North Korea's hidden nuclear labs. North Korea, acutely aware of the ease with which the U.S. removed several Middle Eastern dictators from power, views nuclear weapons as essential for its survival. After years of promises made by his father and grandfather before him, acquiring nuclear weapons is a matter of life or death for Kim Jong-un. If North Korea fails to achieve nuclear capability, it would likely spell the end for the young dictator, as political rivals would seize the opportunity to overthrow and possibly kill him. With the ever-present threat of all-out conflict looming over the peninsula, how do the two nations' militaries compare? When it comes to war, strategy often outweighs weaponry, and both sides have distinct approaches to victory. North Korea has learned valuable lessons from the conflicts in Iraq and Afghanistan. Knowing that a full-scale victory over the United States is impossible, the North has instead focused on making the conflict so costly in terms of collateral damage and civilian casualties that the U.S. would be forced to seek an early peace. Similar to the Soviet Union during the Cold War, North Korea aims to compel the U.S. to the negotiation table by weakening the resolve of the U.S.'s protectorate. During the Cold War, the Soviets devised a plan to overrun NATO, seize Germany and Belgium, and then use the governments of these two nations to pressure NATO into seeking peace. In a new Korean war, North Korea will try to inflict such severe costs that South Korea will lose the will to continue fighting, forcing the U.S. to negotiate with the North. One of the cornerstones of this strategy is Seoul, the capital of South Korea. A city of nearly 10 million people, the South's capital is just 35 miles, 50 kilometers, from the DMZ that separates the two nations. This puts Seoul directly in the sights of North Korea's long-range artillery, so much firepower that a conventional artillery strike against the city would cause unimaginable devastation. Although not all of North Korea's artillery could reach Seoul, enough to inflict significant damage and kill tens of thousands of people are within range. North Korea's 122mm, 240mm, and 300mm multiple rocket launchers, along with more traditional 170mm self-propelled guns, could all unleash thousands of rounds into Seoul itself. A single volley from North Korea's 300mm rocket launchers could deliver over 350 metric tons of explosives across the entire city. With over 11,000 artillery platforms, ranging from rocket launchers to towed and self-propelled artillery, North Korea still maintains a significant advantage over the United States in artillery pieces. The U.S. only fields about 20,700 total artillery pieces, almost evenly split between rocket launchers, towed artillery, and self-propelled artillery. Of course, most of the U.S.'s artillery inventory is not currently deployed on the peninsula. However, at the start of hostilities, the South's military would come under American command according to current operating procedures, granting the U.S. access to over 6,000 pieces of South Korean artillery, most of which is towed and self-propelled artillery. The South, fully aware of Seoul's vulnerability to a massive artillery barrage, has positioned its artillery to swiftly destroy North Korean artillery in counter-barrages. This leaves North Korea with a choice: expose its most capable artillery pieces in an all-out attack on Seoul and risk having them destroyed, or use them to strike at military targets instead. Seoul, however, is a key objective for North Korea, and its strategy doesn't extend much deeper into the south than the capital city. Logistics are also a concern, with pre-war caches of supplies, ammunition, and fuel only capable of sustaining about a month of intense conflict and only a few dozen miles into the south. Reliant on a massive, all-out attack against the South in an attempt to bring it to the negotiating table before the U.S. can muster its overseas forces to respond, North Korea would deploy its entire air force in waves of suicide attacks against the South. In total, the North fields just under 1,000 aircraft compared to the U.S.'s 13,498. Of these, 458 are fighters compared to the U.S.'s 2,002, and 498 are attack aircraft compared to the U.S.'s 2,031. North Korea's air forces are overwhelmingly outdated, consisting of Cold War-era relics such as the Sukhoi Su-7 and even the post-World War II era Ilyushin Il-28 medium bomber. While they do possess a fleet of 35 MiG-29s, which, despite being older, are still capable aircraft, they wouldn't be able to withstand the onslaught of American and South Korean F-16s and F-15s, nor the South's modern anti-air defense network. Instead, North Korea would use these planes as kamikaze units against ROK and American military targets, as well as civilian targets. On the ground, North Korea fields a force of just over 6,000 main battle tanks, compared to the U.S.'s 6,287, or the South's 2,654. North Korean tanks are overwhelmingly outdated models, with its main force of 1,600 T-55s dating back to the post-World War II years. It does possess an unknown number of Soviet-made T-72s and T-80s, but these are believed to be very few in number and would not have a significant impact on a ground campaign. While U.S. tank forces would completely obliterate the North's outdated tanks, most of the U.S.'s own tanks are stationed elsewhere around the world and would take time to reach the peninsula. The North would therefore group its armor into large armored advances that would easily break through the American and South Korean defenses along the DMZ and roll towards Seoul at top speed, aiming to cut off the city on the ground. While South Korea would respond with overwhelmingly modern Abrams derivatives, the K-1 and K-1A1, they are greatly outnumbered by the North's tank forces. Neither the North nor the South field a navy of any considerable size, although the South does have the firepower advantage with its small fleet of 13 frigates and 12 destroyers. The North has long focused on trying to deny the U.S. the use of its aircraft carriers by building fleets of Midget submarines that are believed to be suicide attack vessels, meant to reach American carriers and sink them, or at least drive them off the Korean coast. With the hands-down best anti-submarine warfare capability in the world, however, the United States would very easily be able to protect its carrier battle groups from even the North's Sango class of submarines. A boat only 34 meters long, the Sango subs are meant to ferry special operations forces for missions into the South and used as a last-ditch defense against American carrier battle groups. In the past, the U.S. and South Korea would have responded to a North Korean attack via a fighting retreat action, falling back from prepared position to prepared position, and drawing the North deeper into the South while buying time for the U.S.'s air power to arrive from Guam and Japan. Then the two allies would push deep into the North under the cover of the largest aerial bombing campaign since the original Korean War. While most of its equipment is outdated, and its troops' training and morale are both very poor, the North's sheer numbers would give it the initial advantage, at least until U.S. air assets responding from Guam began to decimate the North's advances over the DMZ. Today, the initial strategy of a fighting retreat is still in place, but instead of pushing deep into the North to achieve a conventional military victory, new plans known as OPLAN 5015 focus on the use of targeted strikes and special forces to destroy the North's command and control networks and kill its leaders, including Kim Jong-un. A decapitating blow is thought to be enough to end the North's will to fight, especially when backed up by a significant portion of the U.S.'s strategic bomber force. Military and government cyber attacks are becoming increasingly common, and we all know the real target of that is you. Your data and identity are what they're after, and you need to make sure you keep it all secure. For that reason, we here at the Infographics Show have been using Dashlane. You no longer need to subscribe to 5 different services to be safe and secure online. Dashlane is the one and only tool you need. Their multi-country VPN lets you browse safely and privately no matter where you are across any device.